Sponsored by Tales from the Red Dragon Inn, the award-winning tactical cooperative board game made for you and your adventuring party to live out all your dungeon skirmish fantasies. Take on the role of one of the beloved characters from the Red Dragon Inn series as they embark on their day jobs, exploring dungeons, slaying monsters, and gathering up loot. The story-driven campaign comes with 6 unique heroes, 14 fully illustrated maps, custom dice, and dozens of enemies to make your campaign the adventure of a lifetime. Play with up to 3 friends, or light some candles, put on a little Enya, and tackle the dungeons by yourself in the transformative solo mode. Wait a minute, that's not Enya. Head on over to slugfestgames.com/tales to begin your adventure today.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Windbreakers podcast, the podcast that exists thanks to viewers like you wanting to listen to us being obliged to give a shit about something for 2 hours on a Monday morning. I'm Yahtzee and I'm joined by Frost and Marty, as always.
Beep, beep.
We are the viewers like you.
Also, did you see that fancy intro? Oh my gosh, a great ad, a fancy intro. Woo, doggy!
Oh, man. I'm not sure I can take the pressure of having to perform after all that.
Oh, we can do it. I believe in us.
It's like having to follow up the Rolling Stones or something. Anyway, so last week I reviewed The Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League for Fully Ramblebatic. Pretty shitty game. I think we're all in agreement on that. But the amount of shit I got in the comments, guys, the amount of shit for one little throwaway statement where I said I thought Superman was kind of a boring character and all they ever seem to do with him these days is make him evil.
Yeah.
You knew what you were doing. You leaned back for that.
I don't think he did know. I don't think you expected that sort of wave of like, oh, Superman, how dare you, Yahtzee? I expected better of you.
No, I was a little thrown. Everyone got very harumphy about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, Superman's actually a really good... They'll probably get harumphy about this tone of voice I'm using now. No, Superman's a really cool character. He's just hard to write well. And then they point to 4 Superman stories, 1 of 4 throughout the entire history of the oceans of Superman stories that exist to show that that he's actually a good character and well written.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Saying a character's good if he's written well, that doesn't mean a whole lot. I mean, anything's good if it's written well. It's like saying The Last Supper would be really shit if someone who wasn't a really good artist painted it.
That is true. That is true. If I tried to take a stab at it, it'd be bad.
No, but that's the difference there, though. Is that they're more saying that you're insulting. Who made The Last Supper? Da Vinci? No,
Leonardo da Vinci.
Jesus' cook.
Yeah, it's more that you still find it boring in spite of this having been touched by Da Vinci himself. In spite of it all, Yachts, you still think that Superman's boring?
Well, I feel most entertainment media seems to agree. Superman is adapted a hell of a lot less than Batman these days. And whatever he is adapted in most recent years, it never seems to work out.
Yeah.
But, let's make this a conversation instead of me ranting. Sure. What do you guys think about Superman?
It seems like Superman is particularly difficult to adapt in video games, right? Because I feel like there's 2 conversations here. There's adaptation in movies and cartoons and TV shows and stuff. That's one thing. But then adapting to a game is a whole different thing, because then you get to the problem of how do you make this moveset interesting? How do you make someone who can move at the speed of sound and who is completely impervious interesting? And that's why we have things like Superman 64 and forgotten Superman games, or Superman gets relegated into he's been nerfed or he's evil, as you see in stuff like Injustice or Suicide Squad.
So Injustice is, I think, the most recent example of Superman being a playable character. It's never really worked out in any other Superman adaptation. I think there was a game based on the what was the Superman before Henry Cavill?
The Bryan Singer one,
that dude. There was a game based on that no one, Brandon Routh, thank you. That no one really talks about. There was Superman 64. There was a couple of shitty platform games from back in the olden times.
Yeah, there was some Superman or Justice League beat 'em ups, I think, around the Super Nintendo era.
all of them running into the inevitable issue of why the fuck is Superman being threatened by random mooks?
Yeah.
Because it's a video game. There's got to be a failure state. It can't. Not everyone can be wielding kryptonite.
Wait a minute. What if? Here's the failure state, right? It kind of reminded me like in Hellblade. Imagine you're Superman. You're fighting off these hordes, and even though you can't die, they can sort of like swarm you enough to where you can't move. There's your fail state. You could walk away for 2 hours, but you still be stuck there, and you have to work your way out of that crowd. That's as close to a fail state as you're gonna get. And the innocents are dying off in the background.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's the other thing you can do. If like an innocent dies on your watch, then you have to game over and go away and become a monk or something.
Iron Man did that.
I think it's telling that the most successful superhero games of the last 15 years have predominantly been about kind of street level, basic superheroes, quote unquote, between Batman and Spider-Man.
You know what I thought you were going to say? Like the most successful superhero style games have often been helmed by super villainous characters or characters who have the option of acting like a supervillain. Such as with Infamous, Prototype, and the precursor to those two was the Incredible Hulk Ultimate Destruction.
Yeah.
Yes. I thought you were going elsewhere with that. I thought you were going to say that the best Superman or superhero games are essentially not superheroes, like God of War. He has that problem. He is a god of war, but he's still getting caught off by, like you said, some random mook in the forest after fighting Thor, right?
Sure.
Well, he was a god in the classical antiquity sense, in that he was just a dude who's more powerful than a person. I mean, these days, the idea of God being omnipotent is really just a Judeo-Christian thing.
That's what
capital G God versus a lowercase G God.
Yeah, that's where you struggle with the Superman games, essentially, isn't it? Because you can't die, and if you do, well, were you really super?
Yeah.
So you kind of
can
need
Superman create a rock too heavy for him to lift?
Sure.
Exactly. and if you can't pick up that rock, well, this opens itself up to some monetization. You know, put your credit card in, and now the game's falling apart.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, you brought up the point of other non-superhero characters filling the role of superheroes, and it does feel like we are ostensibly playing a superhero in almost any open world game now, right? Like, look at, like, if a superhero, what does a superhero do? A superhero helps the innocent, helps those in need, thwarts bad guys, you know, is there to solve people's like street level problems. Like, that's what any open world, that's what Geralt does. That's what Sam Bridges does in Death Stranding. That's what Ichiban does in Like a Dragon.
That's what you do in Skyrim. Every RPG you've ever played.
And I think the reason why I think the world is too cynical for superheroes, although maybe this is me projecting.
Sure.
But when we see someone who's all powerful doing that sort of thing, like ground level problem solving, our first question is, what the fuck are you doing here? Why aren't you fixing all the problems that exist on higher levels in the world?
Yeah.
Because Superman has always been like a pawn of the status quo, a pawn of the establishment. I mean, a lot of superheroes are. They're like, we fight crime, we work with the police. We're okay with the police. We beat up criminals, and if the mayor comes off and tells us to deal with this problem, we salute and go, right away, Mr. Mayor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's classic stories from like way back when where Superman, I think I've seen like a panel cut out of context where Superman's talking to Richard Nixon in like a classic Silver Age comic, and Superman says, "Sure, Mr. President, if you can't trust the president of the U.S., who can you trust?" And that's the sort of vibe Superman had back in the day. And that really doesn't work for a modern audience living in a world where we have seen that the people in power can fuck things up just as much as anyone else.
So is that why you think that there's, which I don't know, like in a post-Watchmen world, that so many of the successful superhero stories have been kind of commentary on superhero as a genre between, you know, The Boys or Invincible or Hickman's Marvel runs, or even like Hancock, My Hero Academia.
Yeah, that's what you gotta do these days. You gotta examine it. You gotta deconstruct it, because a lot of people would like look at it and say, well, what's all with this? I mean, you could say a lot of like the Marvel and DC superhero movies do the same thing these days.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at something like Shazam, that's a comedic deconstruction of the concept of a child turning into a superhero.
Yeah.
And still having the mind of a child as a superhero.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the case with the character originally. They were just like a straight superhero who happened to like turn back into a kid.
Yeah, it feels like superheroes, at least in movies, became not a genre, it became like the condiment for other genres. Like you would get the sci-fi kind of family stories in Guardians of the Galaxy, or you'd get kind of the more espionage thrillers in Winter Soldier, or a crime movie in The Dark Knight kind of thing. And then the superhero was like, oh, and by the way, it's also a superhero movie. Which I guess is kind of what Westerns did at a certain point.
Maybe it's the animes that have killed it.
Thanks.
As far as like wholesome, I will beat you with the power of friendship. We got so many of those.
Yeah.
I was just watching Demon Slayer.
Yeah.
I think Superman can work if it's about Superman level crises, like, you know, alien invasions, but of beings more powerful than Superman.
I was thinking.
I think it doesn't work so much when it's Superman beating up, say, Toyman.
Sure.
Who's just a dude who likes toys.
That's a Batman villain.
That's just fucking. That's our audience.
Yeah.
That's us.
Yeah.
Superman's coming for you.
Superman beats up gamers.
I mean, for the same reason, Batman doesn't really work for me when it's just Batman going around randomly beating up toughs. But if it's Batman actually being a detective, investigating supervillains and like bringing them down, that feels more like something more appropriate to Batman's level of resources and ability.
Gotcha then. What if you have to play as Clark Kent and Superman, and the world is falling to shit around you, but you have to balance when to turn into Superman while also keeping your Clark Kentness separate. There you
like
go.
Persona, you have to do a 9 to 5 at the. You have to do a 9 to 5 at the Daily Planet, and then at night you have to enter the Mementos. That is the sky.
I suppose my first question would be, what terrible consequence does Superman imagine ensuing of people realizing that he is Clark Kent? Because it seems like everyone in his social circle gets engaged by supervillains all the time anyway.
Yeah,
See,
regardless.
My favorite Superman was like the old cartoons. Well, look up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. These are the ones where the biggest feat of strength is like, oh, I lifted a train, but I went right before I picked
because
it up.
originally Superman wasn't supposed to be like that level of crazy powerful. The original Superman,
he was like bending a gun. I'm like, oh, that's neat.
Yeah.
He was really strong. That was it. He couldn't fly. He didn't have heat vision or freeze breath.
All buildings in a single bound.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just one building. Yeah,
just one building, and it can't be that tall. It can be like moderately tall. I think the problem with Superman is, and I'm going to keep going back to Spider-Man and Batman because those are like the more successful versions of like a modern open world superhero game we've gotten. Is that Spider-Man and Batman the stuff in between all makes sense. The Batman going from building top to building top, or doing the investigations, or swooping down on an enemy, that all makes sense gameplay and mechanically. Spider-Man, the same thing. Swinging across the city, all that, like, you can envision all of that. Whereas with Superman, it feels like you would almost need a Superman game to be built around tiny, like 45-second chunks where you're Supermaning. So it would almost, instead of being an open world game where you're stitching all this stuff together, it would have to be like broken up like a Neon White or something. And to where each level is, this is the Superman has to do X, and it is only 30 seconds, but you have to stop this airplane from falling out of the sky. And like, it seems like that is the way to wrap my head around a Superman game.
But people don't like those. Like I said, in Iron Man, there was a bit where you had to just destroy a bunch of random stuff, and you had to do it fast enough so that you could save Pepper. The only fail state, because they weren't going to kill Iron Man, was to just have it, oh, Tony, and then game over, try again. I was like, oh,
yeah, and all those bits in the Spider-Man games where you've played normal person bumming around a house. Everyone talks shit about those, especially me.
Riding your bike across the city for your first day on the job.
Yeah. I think Superman 64 with the flying through rings, I mean, there was the kernel of the right way to do it there, make it sort of traversal based. And, you know, it's fun to be a really strong dude who can punch a dude into orbit.
Do you think he just has too much power creep going on? Like, kind of got to reset him?
It's hard to justify him struggling with anything at all, and struggle is the meat and potatoes of a video game.
That's why he's got to struggle at his 9 to 5. Because, like, how does Clark make money otherwise?
I suppose, you know, what would be kind of fun would be a game sort of like along the lines of Postal, where you play Clark Kent just going through his daily life, and just things keep shitting all over him, and he has to sort of resist the temptation to just punch the dude into orbit.
To having his Michael Douglas falling down moment.
Yeah.
No, that's pretty good because I did go before this. I watched like 2 videos on why Superman's actually great, and I went through so many Reddit threads of like, okay, why do people like Superman? And so much of it did come down to like one, he's just happy as hell. How do you translate that to games? I don't know.
Well,
What
I'd be happy too if I could punch dudes into orbit. That's what makes him fundamentally an unrelatable character to like audiences of today. People
they
have
like
struggles.
his wholesomeness. These are wholesome whores, is what they like.
Well,
He is,
watch the fucking Care Bears then, and that's
but
what
I always
your
wonder.
bag.
Yeah, well, there's the Bluey game. That's a good time.
Yeah, I
The
mean, I like Bluey because that's where I want my wholesomeness.
Well, there was one guy though that actually had one solid point where it's Superman won't fail, but it's about the tension of like who. The problem is he might not save everyone. That's what he struggles with.
Oh, boo fucking who?
And that's what I was saying. Either you make it tense, but people don't like that, like in the Iron Man game, or we use these fancy new processors and these next gen consoles and whatnot, and we make a Superman Muso game where he is apparently the only person he actually hates is like Darkseid. Like that's the only person that he has any sort of animosity.
He's got true beef with.
Yeah, like just let him fight through goons just constantly.
It's what Superman just gooning across the galaxy.
Put him on like anti-Earth where everyone is just it's awful, it's horrible, and you got to save it from Darkseid. You can now destroy this world. You can now beat up on as many goons as you like.
You have free reign to just kill everything in sight.
Just keep him good, make everything so evil that he's allowed to finally just go crazy.
See, I feel like with this part of the conversation, we're sort of dancing around the actual issue here. I mean, we're all asking, what can we do to make a Superman game good? Whereas I think the question is, why do we need a Superman game?
I don't think we do.
Do we really need something? Do we really need to adapt him? Do we just like get by with not adapting Superman?
I mean, we, by and large, like you said, we kind of haven't, because I don't think people have been able to wrap their heads around it, right? You have Superman 64, which is very bad. You have the movie adaptation from 15 years ago, which is very forgettable. And then other than that, he's been, in Injustice, which is a fighting game, which seems like an easy way to kind of just put your finger on the scale to fudge power levels, or being a, NPC antagonist in Suicide Squad.
I don't think he's that much of a draw. Not like Batman. I don't think people are that interested in playing Superman games or watching Superman movies.
It's like going to be interesting to see what if the same is true a year and a half from now, when there's a new Superman movie coming out from James Gunn, who made people give a shit about the Guardians of the Galaxy, and no one gave a shit about the Guardians of the Galaxy before that. So
possibly, I mean, aside from the fact that he's hard to relate to, except from like the base level boyhood fantasy, I want to beat up all the bullies and just smile at them as they try to hit me back. He's relatable on that level, but beyond that, he's literally just an archetype. He's literally the Nietzschean Übermensch. That's what Übermensch means. Superman, literally. That's all he is. There's no real. I mean, the only way you can like get a good story out of it is to really add your own shit to it.
Oh, fan fiction.
Yeah. Well, no, a commentary on it, like with Homelander and the Boys, or Omni-Man and Invincible, right? Sure. That takes that and was like, well, what if he wasn't like a corn-fed, like wholesome boy, but instead was fucking evil, was like a fascist.
It's a roguelike where you spawn in different states. And you have to play him from boy to teenager to Superman. I want to be Florida's Superman. Super baby, super teen, Superman. Like, as you are.
So I'm fully behind the concept of Suicide Squad.
Mm-hmm.
Getting to play the villains who are the only ones left after Superman is like turned evil.
Yeah,
I think it's executed poorly. I mean, I remember saying a long time ago, after the latest Batman and Superman movies had kind of flopped, saying like in the DC universe, the villains are kind of the interesting characters.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Batman's Rogues Gallery, I've always felt are more interesting characters than Batman himself. And I think when I first heard they were like adapting Suicide Squad to movies and games, I was like, yeah, I've always been saying that. Those are the dudes that have the interesting struggles in life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because, if you're watching a superhero team up, they're all going to be basically good guys. But if you watch something like Suicide Squad, who's going to betray the rest of the group first?
Mm-hmm.
It's when, not if.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, that's the thing, is I don't think the Suicide Squad game wasn't one that was doomed from the start. Like, it was in a certain world that could have been a really interesting thing, were it not everything it was kind of forced to be from management
Yeah,
above.
the live service bollocks.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
There's it is interesting because like we're this train of superhero games isn't slowing down anytime in the near future. Like even though we've had a couple pretty notable duds recently with Marvel's Avengers and with Suicide Squad, like the success of Spider-Man coupled with a lot of single-player superhero games are in development. We have the Wolverine game and Spider-Man 3 from Insomniac.
Wonder Woman.
Monolith, the Shadows of War, Shadows of Mordor team is working on a Wonder Woman game. Arcane Leon, the Deathloop team is working on Blade. Amy Hennig's new studio is working on a Captain America and Black Panther game set during World War II. There is a a solo Black Panther game by EA's new Seattle studio Cliffhanger, and there's an Iron Man game by the Dead Space remake team at EA Moto.
Okay, but
and those are just the announced ones.
Yeah, my question would be, how much of those are actually now in development hell after the response to Suicide Squad and to Marvel's Avengers?
I mean, the thing is, these are all of
Wolverine.
those are predominantly single player from studios, outside of the new studios, but those new studios have pedigree from studios who have proven that they can do like you could kind of look at the Nemesis system and be like, oh, I understand how this could work in a Wonder Woman game using the Lasso of Truth, a Nemesis system kind of thing. You look at like Arcane Leon's like city building, what they did with Dishonored and with Deathloop, and you're like, oh, I could see that in a Blade game set in Paris. Like that sounds kind of fucking cool. Where at night all the vampies come out, and during the day you're just I don't know, eating croissants and slashing shit.
Yeah. I suppose, we're talking about how like the average protagonist in any video game is basically a superpowered person. Because what in that case, what differentiates a superhero from one of those is that to me, a superhero is someone who says, I'm right. I'm right, and what I do is right by virtue of me doing it because I'm a superhero. And I think that's what triggers the cynicism of a lot of people. Thoughts?
Is like almost is there like a fascist worldview of being like, well, I am like judge, jury, and executioner because I have these powers?
Well, I didn't say fascist. Someone in the super chats did. I'm sure we'll get to that. but yeah, I mean that's that's the whole thing Watchmen was examining. Like self-appointed vigilantes sort of lead to a sort of breakdown of moral society. There's a reason why there need to be. There's a reason why there need to be checks and balances and, fair trials.
Wasn't that one of the runs of the Superman comics where he's like gotten into his head that he is right? And so that society had to deal with the backlash of that.
Like Superman with an ego.
Yeah. I don't know. See, you were riffing off these superhero games, and I was here going, all of those excite me more than, say, if someone announced a Superman game. Just this. Yeah. And we've gone like, is it those writing, right? Is it just hard to give a character like this morality because he is so like this is just Superman. Like imagine there's the backlash of like, okay, one, I found Superman boring, or two, this isn't what Superman would do. He would never do such a thing.
I mean, who can
write for a character like
who
that?
Can say that? I mean, the Superman and Batman both have been written by so many different writers over the years. You could interpret it however you want, really. What's that like classic graphic that shows like an example of a version of Batman that could fit into all 9 of the D&D alignment?
Oh yeah.
Alignment slots.
I love this. Yeah. What's this?
Like so they've got like Adam West Batman in Lawful Good, and they've got like Frank Miller Batman in Chaotic Evil.
Right.
It's funny because I almost feel like when I think of like what superhero would make an interesting game, I don't start from their story. I start from their mechanics.
Yes.
I'm like, what would mechanically be interesting? And I just don't think Superman would be mechanically interesting. Like those ones we mentioned that are coming up, Blade could be mechanically interesting. Black Panther, mechanically interesting. Wonder Woman, mechanically interesting in the same way Batman and Spider-Man are. But like, man, I don't like with Superman. I just don't like. It's hard to wrap your head around. Like, at a certain point, does it just turn into like Asura's Wrath, which is QTEs of you doing like bigger and more bombastic fights? Which I don't know. Maybe I play that.
He struggled. If you want Superman, go into Minecraft, go into creative, and just fly around, stick around. Nothing can hurt you. You can break everything.
Yeah,
it just becomes far too fundamental.
Yeah, it's like no clip mode, right? At a certain time,
you
just like turning on
God mode on in any game you already play, and it's like,
Yeah.
well, that was cool for 5 minutes.
Yeah, but like, is this good?
Yes. What if you did something like showed how it was a struggle from Superman's perspective? Like, from an outside perspective, you see Superman, he just sort of, he's just like a blur for a few seconds, and then everyone falls down. What if you like switch from his perspective and it went into like a slow motion mode, and you had to like punch these dudes in exactly the right way? And it's like some kind of arduous process of like arranging things in the correct order, and then
It's
like
it's
to get
also
the effect.
yeah, or the idea of you don't need to master the controls to deal more damage. You need to master the controls and the systems to pull your punches. Because like Superman's whole thing is he needs to use only 1% of his power, or else he's gonna fucking kill everyone in one hit.
Right, you got to
And
keep a very close eye on everyone's health bars.
yeah, like you need to like enter
Stun
more
don't kill.
intricate
Stun
commands and
don't
a better
kill.
flow to like have softer punches, which almost seems like a I don't know,
Yeah,
like
that's
an
that could
anti-action
be.
game.
And if you combine that with my slow motion idea, that could be interesting. Like a
Yeah.
superhero game where you have to use the exact right sequence of attacks, keeping in mind the damage that they do, to get their health within a sort of range where they're incapacitated, but they're not like permanently
I'm-
crippled or dead.
I started replaying or playing for the first time Pokemon Black, which was like a DS Pokemon game, and that is the closest I feel to be like when you try to catch a Pokemon, you're like, I need to beat the shit out of you, but not kill you. Like I need to beat the
Yeah.
shit out of you so that you have this much health left, so I can throw a Pokeball to capture you. But then you like hit them too hard, and you're like, oh no, I've killed it. What have I done? So that's what
Someone,
Superman is.
yeah, someone in the
Power
chat
of it.
mentions take out the bad, fix the Wi-Fi in the chat. Says take out the bad guy by whatever means necessary, but minus points for environmental damage. That like a sort of Devil May Cry assessment system, where at the end of the fight, you get points based on how right your actions were as a superhero.
See, and that also feels like when I went back to Superman as a series of moments as opposed to a cohesive big open world thing, that almost feels like what you're getting down to is like a puzzle game. Almost like
Yeah.
that John Wick hex game, where like here's the scenario, and you as Superman need to go through it with as literal collateral damage / death as possible, which I like. Which also, it seems it's kind of a bummer to me that like in this modern wave of superhero games where we've gotten stuff like the Guardians of the Galaxy game and Marvel's Avengers and even like Marvel's Ultimate Alliance coming back, that we've never leaned on seeing what indie devs could do, like what a smaller game could do, or even like when you look at like a 2D like quick action platformer like Sanabi or like Katana Zero, like how come we've never gotten like a Marvel game of that scale or a DC game of that scale? It feels like it's always like swing for the fences, or it's just a mobile thing like Marvel Snap.
Well, you gotta be on a grand scale. That's just superheroes in general, isn't it?
Yeah, but like I don't know, just like a superhero, just like a simple Metroidvania, a 2D Metroidvania, like.
Well, that's Arkham Asylum, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's sort
To
of a
an extent.
Metroidvania.
Yeah, but like just smaller. I don't know, just these smaller. Like when I think of the John Wick hacks or the Tron game that came out, I'm like, I wish you could give like, I guess those were both Bithell games, but like give smaller teams with interesting ideas a chance to like take a very focused stab at a superhero concept and like take a specific superhero to where you could really like, let's just explore their power through an interesting single mechanic.
I've got it.
I've got it. Frost has got it.
I figured it. This could have saved the Wii, all right? It's Superman, arm wrestling champion of the universe, where you're in VR and you're just arm wrestling stronger and stronger dudes, and you might fail, but that's the thing. If Superman does lose, it shouldn't cost him everything, because that's when people are like, no, he has to win. So it's like, what if it's just an arm wrestling thing?
Yeah, he just needs to be humbled a little bit.
But then there's also moral dilemmas, right? So like you're going to take on this other guy, and he's like, man, I really
what if your
need to win
opponent
this,
is,
or everyone goes hungry, or my galaxy
what if your
gets blown
opponent,
up.
yeah. What if your opponent is a Make-A-Wish kid with cancer?
Exactly.
Is he really going to beat that kid at arm wrestling?
Like, would you?
Say, ha, suck it.
There you go. I've made the perfect Superman game. It is difficult. You have to.
Although when you were talking about smaller scale superhero games, I was suddenly reminded of the fact that playing Shadows of Doubt reminded me of playing a game where you play as Rorschach from Watchmen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Especially the way we did it. He killed a man with, what was it?
He
Killed a man
killed
with
several
bread.
men.
You killed a man with bread in Shadows
Okay,
of
yeah.
Hell.
Killed the man with bread.
That's very Rorschach-y, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was all about improvising weaponry from his environment.
Including his lunch. Well, so
Yeah, in
what?
fact, he literally like blinds a policeman with pepper in the Watchmen comics.
What? Okay, so what I'm getting from this, writing's difficult for a
Yes.
character that is right, and then two, the mechanics are difficult because he kind of just is so damn strong. Like from a technical aspect, I just think Superman's the power creep is way too far. Give me one where he's back in time and he is playing as that old cartoon Superman, where like sometimes a laser puts him down to his knees, but he gets back up. I want him to feel that struggle. I think he's just way too strong now.
You could adapt the old Smallville TV series, have him like not quite awakened to his powers, and have them develop over the course of the game.
Oh, look at that! And then in the end, he finally gets the whole outfit. He's huge, and he just flies around through hoops. Like that's great.
Yeah,
That's your new game plus mode. You're just flying. You're just
You
doing
are now
everything in
just
the game.
you get the cape.
Yeah.
Well, at the end of the day, Superman doesn't really work for me because he is the embodiment of privilege. He by a random quirk of fate, he's got superpowers, and not because he had to work for them or anything. And he was also privileged enough to have a happy home life with a family that loved him, and have a decent job in the city when he grew up.
I don't like him because he's all heart too dense. Like if he really knew what was going on in this world, he would equate billionaires evil and just snap Lex Luthor's neck, and then we're all good. We'll probably go after Batman.
He's too nice. He lives a really nice life, and therefore he thinks everyone can be redeemed.
Oh my goodness!
I just think he'd be really poor working for a newspaper. I think it's just a couple who works for a newspaper, and newspapers do not pay a lot of money. So I think we need to discuss the fact that
I always got.
I don't know. Like, is he ever living in squalor? Like, he should have roommates.
Yeah,
He's in Metropolis working like a 40K job at the newspaper. He should have roommates.
Wasn't there a period in Superman canon where he was upgraded to being a TV news presenter?
I don't remember this.
Because I think like a lot of people had similar thoughts to you, that that was sort of the more prestige news thing than papers at that point.
The most prestigious thing is to be a podcaster.
Yeah.
Yes, these days.
Yeah. Nothing's more prestigious than that.
I mean, that's kind of literally what they did in Spider-Man 2, isn't it? Mary Jane at the end of the game becomes a podcaster. Rather than
Exactly. It's like putting out her version of Serial or whatever.
Yeah.
I hate it all.
I hate
it all. Who is there? Before we jump into comments and a word from our sponsor again, is there a, if not even necessarily a Superman game, is there a developer you think you'd want to see take a crack at a superhero?
No,
I don't know if you really think of games like that, but is there like a proven team where you're like, ooh, that could be interesting? Like I playing Control by Remedy. I'm always like, this could be like. I'm very happy that Remedy is seemingly very successful in their own cinematic universe they've created. But like you play that and you're like, this, like I could see like Remedy making like a trippy Doctor Strange game or really kind of digging into one of those weird superheroes.
It's a weird question to ask because I've played plenty of good superhero games by good developers. Sure. I like the Insomniac Spider-Man games. I like Infamous and Prototype. I liked Control, where you play as a character with superpowers.
Did you ever play the X-Men Legends or Marvel Ultimate Alliance games? The ones that were kind of just like mindless Diablo top-down.
Yeah, I've played Ultimate Alliance 2, I think. As you say, it was a perfectly acceptable
turn your brain off kind of thing.
Top down, grind up the random mooks sort of game.
Yep, a lot of mooks.
Whoever made Sonic, I want them to make a Flash game.
Yuji Naka, once he gets out of jail.
It's gonna be a while.
All right, Super Chats time.
Before we go to Super Chats, Eric, can you deliver a word from our wonderful sponsor, please?
Sponsored by Tales from the Red Dragon Inn, the award-winning tactical cooperative board game made for you and your adventuring party to live out all your dungeon skirmish fantasies. Take on the role of one of the beloved characters from the Red Dragon Inn series as they embark on their day jobs, exploring dungeons, slaying monsters, and gathering up loot. The story-driven campaign comes with 6 unique heroes, 14 fully illustrated maps, custom dice, and dozens of enemies to make your campaign the adventure of a lifetime. Play with up to 3 friends, or light some candles, put on a little Enya, and tackle the dungeons by yourself in the transformative solo mode. Wait a minute, that's not Enya. Head on over to slugfestgames.com/tales to begin your adventure today.
And we're back. So, starting the super chats with David Reeder, who gives $10 and says, I think there needs to be a return to the more classical style of fairy tale-esque heroes, ones like Cuchulainn, Tam Lin, Beowulf, or Gilgamesh. Less secret identities, more wandering heroism. See, that's interesting.
Several
As
of
I
those
said,
are personas you can get in Persona.
oh, God, I fucking knew you'd say that.
Marty, please. That's Hades, the game.
As I say, like superheroes are sort of the agents of the status quo. They stick in one city, they enforce the law, they work with the police. But yeah, like the wandering hero is an entirely different thing. If someone who just stumbles upon problems rather than goes looking for them, in more classic sense, in more like mainstream sense, someone like the man from No Name, from the Clint Eastwood westerns.
Yeah, or like even like Mandalorian, and they've kind of pulled from that lone wolf and cub thing. I feel like Wolverine is a superhero who could do that. Like seems like he's always just smoking stogies and going from place to place.
Yeah, and the Civil War and the World Wars. Like,
Yeah.
It's the difference between going out looking for trouble and just troubles sort of randomly happening.
I feel like if you go to 10 cities a row
and
and you fall into trouble in each one, maybe you're the problem, right? Like if you meet 3 assholes in a day, maybe you're the asshole. That kind of thing.
No, maybe you're just playing Yakuza.
A lot of assholes falling from trees. I would like more mythological games like these. I don't think we're gonna get them, but it would be cool to play like a Beowulf game that isn't just based on that shitty Beowulf movie.
That's like it was all right.
Classic mythical heroes were a lot more morally bankrupt, a bit more amoral.
Give them the front
they have all that power. Oh my god!
I mean, as I recall, like the classic epics, like the Greek epics and like the Norse stories, they liked to focus on characters, taking what they wanted for themselves, like being individually empowered.
Yeah,
which usually meant shitting all over everyone they ran into.
Sure, I mean, I'm down for it. Just the entire concept of these fairy tale-esque kind of things. It's sort of like, whoa, why don't we see more book adaptations? How about instead just mythology adaptations, right?
These days there's a lot of those, but it's always either Greek or Norse.
Greek
Hope
or
you
Norse.
like Greek or Norse mythology, because there's fucking everyone adapts those.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Oof.
Well, you know what? Liza P will open the door for all of our literary adaptations. It's fine.
Oh, there you go. Look forward to a Pollyanna adaptation. Pollyanna, but with a samurai sword.
Hell yeah.
Dr. Theo gives $5 and says, as a kid, my number one pick for a superhero was Cole from Infamous, because I literally didn't consume any other superhero media besides The Incredibles. Well, Cole was only a hero half the time.
Sure.
The Incredibles was such a great game until you had to play as Dash. Because, my God. Yeah, that was interesting. You got to swap between characters. Now you're super strong. Imagine if you could limit Superman to only being able to do one thing at a time. Like you're super.
Give Superman cooldowns.
Yeah, there it is. Give him cooldowns.
Wesley Thomas gives $5 Canadian and says, just like with sex, drugs, and rock music, I don't like / wasn't allowed to enjoy superhero media, so nobody else should be allowed to either.
Perfect.
Is that a dig at me and my attitude, Wesley Thomas?
Well, were you not allowed sex or drugs or rock music?
I'm not saying nobody's allowed to enjoy superheroes. I'm just saying if you are, you're probably a little bit mentally stunted.
Oh, what? Drugs?
What? What's so controversial about saying that?
I didn't hear you. I didn't.
If you like superheroes, you're mentally stunted.
Oh.
We play video games. We're all mentally stunted.
I don't think
maybe the ones you play. I play fucking Talos Principle 2, bitch.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He plays New York Times. Like he actually.
What are you reviewing this week?
No. What am I playing? Oh yeah, Banishers. I'm doing.
Oh no,
Banishers
not
this
Banishers.
week.
I was trying to think I had the
Yeah.
Skull and Bones. Sorry.
Yes.
I don't know. I think it is. It's like every other medium. They all have their fans, but the ones who fan more than the fans, they're just a lot closer to Al Qaeda than nothing else.
That's fair enough.
Overall thing, just be overly cautious of someone who makes their entire personality about any one thing.
Yeah, exactly. Jackson Jewel also in the Green Gang for 3 months. Thank you so much. 2 Martys and 1 Yahtzee. None of them correct. Yeah, there was a little mix up in the names at the start. You were both Marty and I was Yahtzee.
Oh wow!
So,
Wow.
what a world we live in.
Eric.
What a
Yeah,
world we live in.
numbered you.
Eric, you did fine. You've done so well since then. Look at you playing B-roll, making goofs. You're doing great.
Wojtek gives $10 and says the world is pretty cynical, but I think it's more that the superhero genre has been overused in recent years.
I was going
Yeah,
to
it's-
ask: is Superman now kind of like the Citizen Kane because he is the archetype? Is he sort of become the Citizen Kane for my generation?
I would put him more under the heading of Mickey Mouse. Characters who don't really have any sort of story or personality behind them, but they're just sort of icons representing something.
See, just because of the way you said that, I'm like, oh, I now understand Superman lovers. Because I will say the same thing to you where I'm like, he's endless optimism and you haven't seen his stories. And I see what you mean. But yes, he is he's just there, isn't he?
Yeah. Superman, Mickey Mouse, and Mario, the triumvirate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And cool spot. The 7-Up logo. He had a video game for the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
Is he better in Kingdom Hearts? Like, what's Mickey's whole thing there?
No, he's like you're looking for him. King Mickey has gone missing.
Yeah.
He's out there fighting evil.
He's like welching on his responsibilities.
I think he actually secretly has like a second family that he hasn't told people about, and so that he just like kind of went off the grid because he had to take care of that. He's got a family. In California.
Well, Minnie wasn't putting out. He's only human.
He's only human.
No, he's not. He's not human.
No,
Okay,
he's not. He's a mouse. That's true.
He's only a mouse.
He's only a mouse.
If anything,
very
that's
high libidos.
Yeah. If anything, that makes it even more understandable.
Mm-hmm.
Alex Armstrong gives $5 and says, sadly, I've got nothing for today's topic, so here's a fun question. If you guys were to make your autobiographies, what would the very last line be?
The end, surely.
And then I took off my pants.
What a time to be alive.
There you go.
I would have it so that the last line cuts off in the middle, but it loops back to the first sentence, which also started off at half. So
beautiful.
Oh, nice.
I've got you trapped now. Reading this.
Little Ouroboros.
Yeah.
Good thinking. Jackson Jewel gives $5 and says, I don't think we're too cynical for superheroes. I think the issue is how many other characters are basically superheroes. It's just oversaturated.
That's a grand point. Yes, superheroes everywhere, and if your power is I'm the most powerful, well,
then it just turns into a numbers game, doesn't it? Fucking shonen mangas saying, "Oh, my power level is higher than yours. What do you expect to be able to do to me?"
Yeah, that's if you kind of boil it down. Like we get our superhero flavoring from, like I said, almost any open world action game, open world RPG. Like Cloud and crew feel like superheroes. The Persona gang feels like superheroes. Every assassin in Assassin's Creed feels like a superhero.
He has to beat like powers of nature at this point. So imagine this now: the dam breaks, and he's got like these laid out pipes that he has to turn, and it's just pipe dream. But he's just trying to stop the flooding at the bottom. Maybe
I like it. I like it.
Yeah, okay. We can literally do anything in a Superman game.
Yeah.
So might as well use any kind of gameplay at all.
Yeah.
King and Commoner gives $5. Says, I don't think the issue is that the world is too cynical. It's that superheroes are. I want superheroes to be icons again. Couldn't they be an icon of cynicism, King and Commoner?
Apparently not. With that John Cleese thing you said.
There you go.
Yeah, like The Boys is arguably one of the most popular superhero things right now, and that is entirely built on superheroes.
And like the villain, the Homelander, has attracted a sort of weird fan base.
And the show even directly like shows that like he shows his true colors, and his base likes him even more.
Yeah. Now that's cynicism.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Fox D gives $2 and says Superman is fascism's enforcer.
Oh no! Hashtag not my Superman.
Yeah, I didn't vote for him.
No, I didn't.
I didn't vote for him.
Imagine if you every 4 years we had to vote for who would get superpowers.
Who would
And that
become
person had
Superman?
to, yeah, and that person had to save everyone from natural disasters for the next 4 years.
You think they would? Or would it get retracted if you don't fulfill your duties?
Well, does
Well,
the
you get, like,
presidency get
impeached? Yeah, I was.
does the
Oh, no,
presidency
this-
get
this-
retracted if you disappoint people? You'd never be able to have a president for more than a week.
No, because here the
You
minute.
take my powers away from me again, I'll just laser vision you to death.
Yeah, I'd be a horrible.
I suppose you'd need to
superhero.
have some kind of auto.
The Back of the Escapists, we did 1 or 2 episodes of Weeb Shit, which is where Jesse, Casey, and I think got together and we made like a little video essay about some anime. We're like, long story short, yes, we are in plans to relaunch an entertainment podcast, heavily featuring Darren Mooney, and through that kind of thing, we will have avenues for various conversations, including Weeb Shit.
You know, I'm a little distracted because I've been trying to think of like what book to write next now that Galaxy
Anime.
for Food's going to be done. And I was thinking of doing something like like a takeoff from the superhero genre.
Yeah.
And suddenly the whole concept of society having to develop a superhero by lottery system to make it seem fair, suddenly that idea has intrigued me.
You've just made Caesar.
Or a
feel
superhero by
like you just-
democratic vote.
I feel like we're just getting close to purging. Are we in purge territory now?
No.
Well,
one night a week.
superheroes. Well, handing power to a random person isn't a million miles away from purge territory, I suppose.
Oh my god, we're living the purge life. That purge nightmare.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't. I'm trying to think of like things where, like, there's been superhero stories about where like powers are commoditized and like, I mean, literally. Sorry, I guess The Boys has that. There's that like serum V or whatever that like people could take and you get like a small boost of superhero powers for a little while, like a PED, foreign enhancing drug.
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah, I mean, superhero logic always seems to focus on how one single person was able to get powers a certain way and never really explores the concept of sort of industrializing the process.
Oh,
of
Christ
seeing
alive.
how many, like,
Yeah.
That's just Tinkerbell, isn't it? Like, you have to believe in me. You know, like
That's-
that is just, yeah. If they don't believe I don't exist,
Yeah,
that's just Tinkerbell. Wow. All right.
well, moving on from Tinkerbell. Matthew C. Snow gives $4.99 US and says, personally, I'm thinking Superman is great when he goes full firefighter and has to juggle dealing with Lex while a goddamn volcano goes off.
Huh, that's good.
Well,
Be
maybe all
interesting to
those
do a
people... Maybe all those
on.
people shouldn't have built their houses under an active volcano in the first place. You ever
but
think
it's
of
right
that?
next to the giant rock he's going to put on top of it.
yeah, exactly.
So it was fine.
I do like the idea of like an altruistic Superman where it's less about fighting and more about solving problems and stopping disasters. And
I think the
that
real
kind of-
problem with that concept is prioritization.
Mhm.
What I mean, considering all the global disasters, which one do you do first?
Yeah,
What if, actually, the answer's right under our nose, and it is a post-dad game Superman, where he is just kind of fixing up the world, save a volcano, sure, but in
Yeah,
that
yeah,
very
yeah.
Power Wash
Yeah.
simulator kind of way.
Like just like there's an exploding dam, and he just has to very carefully and laboriously put all the rocks back in place
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
within a
maybe
split
that's it.
second.
Just
Yeah.
like, on the job. Mhm.
Yeah, on the job Superman.
he's just power washing the entire Earth.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but he-
something like
then
that.
he goes home and writes it up for the paper. Anyway. Boom. Fox D gives $2 and says Superman 64 was just a worse Pilot Wings.
It was. That's true.
Thank you for your very uncontroversial comment, Fox D.
I liked Pilot Wings. Bring back Pilot Wings.
King and Commoner comes back with $5 and says, honestly, a Telltale style Superman game might be the way to go. Have it be about the decisions a nigh omnipotent being has to make.
Oh,
We tried it with Batman, right? Did you ever play the
Yeah.
Batman Telltale game?
No, because Telltale games are just sort of choose
By
your own
that point.
adventure games where you don't really change anything with your
Yeah,
decisions.
and by that point they were kind of spinning their wheels and
Is more, choose your own adventure, and then at the end, see who picked choices like you.
yeah.
More of a personality test, really.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be interesting,
yes.
like almost a like a Superman, like a Twine game, like choose your own adventure, less in the that style, but more of like an Inkle game. Like if you've ever played 80 Days or even a Highland Song recently, where it's kind of meant to be replayed and you can see where the adventure takes you.
Hmm.
Alex Armstrong gives $10 and says, "Love your semi-ramblomatic on tutorial levels. Well, thoughts on optional tutorials at the start that include story-stroke character development, like Witcher 3 or Gears of War 2, where you're training a rookie?" Well,
Right.
that's sort of somewhere between the two options, between the integrated tutorial and the separate tutorial level. And yeah, they're fine.
They're fun.
That's
I
a
mean,
roaring recommendation.
they all have every option has its pros and cons. Depends what you're trying to do.
You said you were mad you didn't remember the Tomb Raider one before you wrote that script, right? Because you were reminded of it, I'm assuming, when you did the stream.
Yeah. I was annoyed because I kept coming back to like the same 3 examples.
Yeah.
And then I remembered, oh shit, yeah, Tomb Raider had one.
Yeah.
Anyway, Fun with Despair gives 10 Canadian dollars and says, "I'd rather just have original superpowered characters without costumes and superhero tropes. Liked Infamous, couldn't care less about Insomniac Spider-Man. Something about superheroes bores me."
But he swings around. Web slinging's great. Good stuff. But yeah, if it was another character that was just called something else, but it was the exact same swinging, I'd be down.
I really liked Prototype, that we were just this one random dude in a jacket who could run up buildings and create like horrible death tentacles from his body.
Oh,
Because
I like Prototype too. That would, I feel like that would just be tethered to an IP now, right? Like they wouldn't be able to. That would just be a Venom game.
I really liked Prototype's aspect where you just sort of hid among the crowd until you pulled out the disaster guns.
Yeah,
I love that little. I love that one power you could unlock, where you'd made the military so paranoid, where you could just disguise yourself as a soldier, then grab another soldier's gun and do a little wrestle with it, and then push them away and say, "It's him! It's the shapeshifter!" And then everyone guns him down.
That's great. Toss my
I
balls.
love,
that's so good.
that shit.
That's so
Hi,
good.
Toffee.
Oh, look at Toffee.
More powers instead of the actual characters, though. That's a good idea. Yeah.
Squirtle Squad 420 gives $10 and says, "I'm surprised a good Iron Man game hasn't been made. Seems like a good option for power scaling, stroke gearing, creating several playstyles depending on what kind of suit you put together. You should play the RoboCop game, Squirtle Squad 420. There's a bit of that."
You move so slow. What if the guy who made Pacific Drive made an Iron Man game? So you go out.
Hey, no spoilers. I'm starting Pacific Drive this afternoon.
That's not a spoiler. That's the whole core concept.
Okay.
Of just fix the suit. It's your post dad. Maybe that's it. Superheroes are just post dad.
You're just constantly tinkering with it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, because we've had, in terms of Iron Man stuff, we had like a solo game, I think, based on the first movie, which was pretty forgettable. And then there was that VR game that came out a little while ago, like a PSVR. I think it was just called Spider-Man or Iron Man VR. I am curious to see what EA Motive does, because you could play Dead Space and kind of be like, oh, I could see something Iron Man-y here.
I've heard people come out for the first Iron Man game. I guess it was better than terrible.
I did.
I never played that one. I played the first Captain America game based on the first movie, and it is unabashedly an Arkham clone. Like everything about it is like Arkham Asylum, but it's a pretty decent one at that. So
Okay.
it's just Captain America fighting Nazis with Arkham combat.
Does he at least do that move where he throws his shield and it bounces off 5 dudes and comes
He absolutely does that.
That's all I want. That's all I want.
100%. You can walk into a room and like use that power to just like fucking bonk every fool in the room.
See, imagine that, right? But with Children of the Sun, so that you can redirect it or just like angle it up properly. It's just snooker, isn't it? Just play snooker off people's heads.
Yeah, you're just exactly. You just do that. I guess. Yeah. Speaking of the sun, Midnight Suns. That was a superhero game recently that tried to do something differently, and
yeah, because you could snog them as well.
You could do. Yeah, you could give them a big kiss. There's not enough superhero games where you get to give someone a big kiss.
Life sims, post-ad games. Do you think superheroes lend themselves better to cozy games?
I would love a cozy superhero game.
Who knows?
Superhero life doesn't feel very cozy.
Some people find superheroes like a cozy place. Like there's people who will read nothing but superhero comics because that's their cozy place.
Yeah, I guess in the same way, if you find Dark Souls cozy can be anything.
Well, I think
Yeah.
superhero writing in particular tends to be kind of cozy in its attitudes. Like everything will be okay. The big powerful people will beat all the baddies.
Yeah,
It's not like Dark Souls.
sure.
Is my point. Giardo gives $5 and says, in the original Superman series, he kidnapped Hitler and Stalin and dragged them to the UN. National borders be damned. This was before World War II. Yeah, see, this is another thing Watchmen commented on. The superhero interference in international politics.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
meant the moment the super person went away, Russia immediately invades Afghanistan and starts World War III.
Mhm.
Oh.
Orbiting the Peanut gives $20 and says, a Superman game like Neon White, where you are speed running, saving different people from different situations within a time frame. Superman's goal to save as many people as possible, but he can't be everywhere at once. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, again, I like the idea of these little bite-sized things. Maybe that'd be more of a Flash game.
Superman WarioWare.
Superman WarioWare. Could you imagine it? Superman micro games. I would
Yeah,
love it.
where it's just like eye lasers and visions and
Yeah,
Of course, Superman can't be everywhere at once. To want to try to be everywhere at once reflects an immature decision-making process. Superman should be working to create a society where everyone can be safe,
Well
not
done.
just trying to individually save everyone who's in danger.
Yeah.
I was
You gotta
thinking,
fix
what
the problem at the
in
core.
games he could be everywhere at once if it's like real time, but you can pause. You know.
I'm sort of
Then-
preemptively getting defensive about the next super chat. Baradis gives $5 and says, Yahtzee, the superhero fantasy is for empathetic people who want to help. Call that childish if you like, but it inspires people. That's the point.
Yeah, Yahtzee.
Yeah, it really inspires me when Superman punches Lex Luthor into orbit. I'm really inspired to go punch people into orbit from watching that.
Yeah, I don't know if that does the inspiration thing still. I would say that was an argument that held water originally, but it just feels like is the inspiration still there when the stories have been kind of told and retreading over the course of 100 years?
That sounds like the fucking excuse CEOs give for their salaries. It's like, no, I need to inspire the workforce with my presence.
I just figured it's more so like because I've gone through so many people saying it, like he's a great guy, super optimistic. You had to have read the comics. And I go, okay, fine. I can give you that he is wholesome and he is good. So are vegetables. They're not all that exciting.
Yeah.
So I see, I can understand where they're coming from. But when we're talking about games, it is about, in this moment, I want to be somewhere not here, somewhere super jacked up and excited. And Superman doesn't do that for me.
And
That's sort of the basis to where I'm coming through.
Story writing in general depends upon adversity and problems.
Like One Punch Man, the whole thing was it kind of focused on everything else because he can just yeah. It's about getting him there. He's just too slow, I guess. I don't know, too unaware.
Yeah. Well, the point of One Punch Man was sort of like the comedy exploration of the character who can beat everything in one punch and slowly sort of losing his interest in the world. But then over time, it sort of just turned into a sort of classic shonen anime thing, focusing on other characters. They even made a fucking fighting game in which, like, playing as the title character is kind of the joke character.
I like that. Yeah, why not? Fighting, Superman in fighting games, I'll give you that. And Justice, I was for it. I was for it because you're fighting other superpowered baddies, and it's not like you actually die in the end.
Well, yeah, and all fighting games are kind of just like you got to flatten everything down, like especially ones that bring in things from different sources, like whether it's a Smash Bros or Marvel vs. Capcom or Injustice. It's kind of like an agreed upon flattening of power levels so that it makes sense that Harley Quinn can fight Superman or that fucking Jill Valentine can fight Thanos.
Yeah, they made some. In the first Injustice game, they made up some bollocks about a super pill everyone was taking. They gave them all Superman level abilities. In the second Injustice game, they kind of stopped bothering to bring that up.
It's fine. It's just like it's a fighting game. It's fine.
Yeah.
But like, I almost need that contextualization, and it works better for me, even if it is just like these truck stop boner pills that like you go toe to toe with Superman.
I mean, just give everyone in the world a truck stop boner pill, and then Superman is immediately neutralized.
Sure.
There we go. Yeah. Now he's just man. No super.
He's just regular man. He's just man with a raging heart on.
It's like Syndrome's plan from The Incredibles.
Yeah.
When everybody's super, no one will be. Where was I? David gives $5 and says, remember the PS2 pressure-sensitive face buttons? What if you had to lightly tap the button with each attack? Kojima would be in heaven.
I've always wondered if
Right.
that was a thing.
Yeah, I mean, in Silent Hill 2, as I recall, on PS2, the kind of attack you did depending on how hard you pressed the button.
Yeah. Metal Gear Solid 3 was the same thing. Yeah, you could do with the pressure sensitive triggers now. You could do a similar thing. Like if you play on PS5, you can see that the triggers like provide feedback and everything.
Yeah, I mean, we do that with walking already, don't we? You have to push the analog stick in a little bit to walk,
I
Yeah.
think
rather
just
than
no
all the
walking in
way.
real life. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I was like,
Yeah.
what?
I felt like if I think about walking too much, I'm just gonna fall over.
Yeah,
None of this is gonna go well.
Quapping around.
Whopping around.
Alex Armstrong gives $2 and says, oh, wait, I know a good non-cynical hero. Deadpool.
I think he's very cynical.
I would question calling him a hero. I mean, that
Yeah,
gets us into like, I mean, in the world of superheroes, there's sort of this obligation to sort of decide if you're going to be a superhero or a supervillain. But I feel like in real life, there'd be a lot of people who sort of bridge the gap.
Yeah.
I feel like there'd be a lot of people in the world these days, if we were handing out superpowers, who would consider themselves to be superheroes, but would, in practice, be supervillains.
Oh, I see where you're going with this. Okay.
There was that Deadpool game as well.
Yeah, but he wasn't doing much heroic in it.
Heroic. Yeah, I think superhero is kind of the catch-all term for protagonist of a superhero story. Just like
Yeah.
all the Suicide Squad superheroes. Just a catch-all term.
Honestly, yeah, that works. Oh, yep, I love this. He's just slapping Wolverine away. Yeah.
I kind of liked how the James Gunn Suicide Squad movie sort of played with that idea with the polka dot man character. How he dies literally screaming, "I'm a superhero now."
Yeah.
John Connor gives $5 and says 2D Black Widow game like Mark of the Ninja. Could have made 5 for what it cost to make Suicide Squad, maybe more. Sure, that's what Matty was saying.
That sounds great. Yeah. That's I feel like there's like 100 indie games I could look at and be like, that you could easily that could have a blank skin and that could totally work.
Tetris, he says.
Yeah, Tetris would
I was
just
trying to. All these asteroids are falling on Earth, and I need to put.
Gotta figure out where to put them.
Really nice positions,
Yeah.
or they won't go away. Yeah.
Boradis gives $5. Says, as a former newspaper man, the salaries aren't great, but it is a good job if you wanted to help people, like Superman, a fantasy of helping.
I feel
What
like
sort of help can you
working in
do?
a hospital, I feel like would be a more like hands-on helping, right?
Yeah.
Like I feel like he'd be
Oh.
like a good surgeon or a nurse. He could like look and be like, "Oh, I know what the problem with is. Their guts are all tangled up. I can see inside."
Yeah.
Testicular torsion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, fighting crime is one thing. It's like how, like, Dr. House is supposed to be Sherlock Holmes if he was a doctor.
Yeah.
And using his incredible powers of deduction to fix people's bodily problems rather than fight crime.
Yeah.
Hmm. That's not bad.
Ryan Steadman. I know you probably get this a lot, Ryan, but I think your parents spelt your first name wrong. Gives $10 and says, the question I have is, when did the power fantasy change from fantasizing about doing good to doing bad? Or has it changed at all?
No, see, not wanting to do good is not the same as doing bad.
But the only thing necessary for evil to succeed is for good people to do nothing.
Sure, but I like having that choice. Like, because that's just the point of humans. It's all free will. If, like Witcher. There you go. He can't, evil can happen, good can happen. I can do good, but I can feel like there's a weight to the good that I do. If you do good because you feel you're good, are you really doing good?
Well, I mean, I guess the really pure charitable thing would be to do good and then not tell anyone you've done good.
Yeah.
She's
There's
a
an
show off.
Although there's an
Little Caesar.
argument. There's an argument that all like charitable, selfless acts are rooted in self-preservation.
I want
I mean,
that.
it's been observed in nature that some animals exhibit like selfless behavior as a way of enforcing their own superiority in the pack.
Being said though, I guess going back to the question, I don't think all. I don't think the power fantasy hasn't completely changed to doing bad. Like I still, arguably the most popular superhero in the world is still Spider-Man, who's kind of like embodies that kind of wholesome, especially that wholesome demeanor. And then
Has there ever been a Spider-Man turns evil? Like
Venom, right? That's the
ongoing
symbiote.
story. Well, that doesn't really count. That's just
You turn
that's
emo, not evil.
That's evil twin character.
No, I mean I think that feels like that's the most. And there was some
Is
like
there
Ben
like
Riley
is there like an
Spider thing.
a Marvel Elseworlds thing where Spider-Man is evil?
I mean, a little. Like the Into the Spider-Verse movies have like there's like a million Spider-Men, and one of them, the Spider-Man 2099 or whatever, kind of realizes that bad things have to happen in order to like the loss of one is not as important if it means saving a million, kind of thing.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, Fox D gives $2 and says retracting the president is a Praetorian Guard job. Yeah. Where are you these days, Praetorian Guard? Jake the Sneaky Geek gives $9.99 US and says, I wonder if anybody will pick up the mantle for DC now that Rocksteady dropped the ball and then lit it on fire.
I mean, we're still.
Well,
I mean, we're getting that Wonder Woman game in theory from Monolith.
yeah, it's not Rocksteady, it's Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers
Yeah.
are the parent organization for all this.
Yeah.
So who knows? Rough Flick gives $5 US and says, screw being special with cool powers. Give me characters who are weak and relatable who have to exist around a bunch of super freaks.
My boy wants to play Sky High, the video game.
I would absolutely play a Sky High video game.
Oh my god. All right.
Well, I was thinking guy dude wants to play Arthur Dent in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh, I
That'd
like
be
that.
kind of cool.
Yeah.
Just being like a random every dude, just sort of having to
Yeah.
navigate weird sci-fi fantasy world.
A genuine fish out of water.
Yeah.
Kitty Sky. Bob Roland also been a member for 2 months. Thank you so much. Bob asks, for Marty, what starter did you pick in Pokemon Black? I picked Tepig, the cute fire pig. He's great.
Fire starter. Nice.
Fire starter. Yeah. Cute little pig.
Tepig.
Epig.
Tepig.
I would. Tepid isn't really a very fiery word, is it? It just means slightly warmer than normal.
Yeah,
room,
well, that's
room temperature, isn't it?
Yeah, that's his first. That's his first form. You just wait until he grows up. I don't know. He hasn't evolved yet, so I don't know what he's going to be.
Trying to think of a fire pun related to pigs.
I was like temperature.
Oh, no. Roaster.
Yeah, spit roast. There you go. No, not that kind. John Fu gives €2 and says, Yachts, Monster Munch or Space Raiders? Monster Munch all the way, John Fu. Space Raiders they sell for like 10p a bag at the corner shop.
Is that
Monster
cereal?
Munch is in action. No, it's maize-based snacks.
Oh, that kind of maize. Corn. All right, gotcha.
Yeah.
I thought it was like a snack, but you need to sell a puzzle first.
Yeah, I was like, there's a puzzle on the back of it. No wonder he likes
get through a labyrinth.
I noticed like in America, snacks don't really do the corn snack.
We have corn snacks.
UK
No.
snacks went into it.
Oh.
Let me tell you, Shawshank just dropped Tepig's evolutions, and they're very good. Pig Night, as in like Ignite, but with a pig.
Oh,
That's
and then
good.
Ember, but a boar. Very good.
That's
Well done,
okay.
Pokemon Company.
Those are solid fire and pig related puns. Fire porcine puns. Aitor Urabari gives 500 arses, his usual amount, and says Superman is privileged, but that's the point. He could literally be a god, yet he spends the time to stop some random guy from jumping off a building. In the early days, he fought the KKK and corrupt bankers. It wasn't about a superpowered show-off. Yeah, well, counterpoint 100 million other stories where he is being a god, Aitor Urabari. That's what we're saying. Superman's been written like a million different times, a million different stories from every possible angle. You can't just point to one like handful of stories and say, this is how he's supposed to be.
So, yeah. What if a very dark, very scary game where Superman drinks because he can't stop people from jumping off of bridges and he can't save them all? And every time he misses, like just barely, the quick time event goes through and you see the anguish in Superman's face. Nah.
I don't even know.
also-
Could he even drink? Like, it's probably not even
It'd
possible.
be
for
like
him to get
Captain
drunk.
America, right? Where he heals too fast.
Yeah,
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 you have to drink petrol or something.
yeah.
Just go out and suck on tankards. It should be good.
Well, he's got alien biology. I mean, the yellow sun gives him powers. He probably gets drunk from, I don't know, eating buttercups.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh,
Robo Knob the Snob gives $23.99 and says, "I'd love a game with a superhero in their old age. Superman dealing with ineffective superpowers or using them too much through the game could make them weaker and weaker. All this as he sees the world he's leaving behind."
oh my god! Imagine his laser vision just flopping down in old age.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah,
this
that's-
doesn't usually happen.
Yeah, they've tried to like. I feel like we've had Batman, old man Batman. We've had old man Logan with Wolverine. I could fuck with old man Superman.
Would you want that in a video game, though? I'm trying to think of the last time I played a video game where the main character was an old fart. I guess maybe God of
Metal
War?
Gear Solid 4.
Yeah,
Oh,
up.
yeah, Metal Gear Solid 4. There you go.
Oh,
Yeah.
he's
Up.
not that old. What?
What?
I went for the oldest I could think
of.
of. He is.
Metal Gear
he's
Solid
older.
4. He's like rapidly deteriorating, so his like back hurts all the time. It's great.
Just pops while he's trying to stealth around.
Yeah.
Red Dead Redemption 2, playing as Arthur, you kind of feel like you're playing an old fart.
Yeah. As you keep
Isn't-
going on and on.
Isn't he like 60
Yeah.
in The Last of Us?
Yeah, and then he dies of a disease at the end.
Yeah.
Very old man vibes.
Hmm.
Arthur Morgan. Alex Armstrong gives $5 and says, "How about a book about superpowers given via lottery, and the protagonist's power is so useless it can't help them through the plot, like Hull's invisibility?" I do have fun thinking of like superpowers that would be useless in like interesting ways. Like invisibility that only works while you're screaming at the top of your voice.
Sure.
Well, usually it just. Oh my god! Never mind. I was gonna say it was like in the animes where it goes, your shit power is actually the strongest power that there is, like in
Sure,
Black Clover.
there's a twist to it,
Your lack of magic means you can steal people's magic. Like,
Yeah.
okay. But
Had
no,
an idea
that
for-
scream and go invisible. That's good. I'd love that.
And I had an idea for a character who had the power to control machines or got power to communicate with machines, but they all inexplicably hate him.
Oh, poor guy.
No.
Why do they all hate him?
And they just don't like him putting on airs, thinking
Okay.
he can like sidle into their turf and talk to them like an equal.
I respect that.
That's good.
Thinking you
Uh,
can talk to me like an equal.
Yeah, where's your
Yeah.
oil vent, asshole? Aitor Urabari gives 200 asses and says, "Also, there's a lot of variety in superheroes. Martian Manhunter could make a great stealth stroke detective game. Plastic Man's powers could make for an interesting puzzle-solving mechanic. Flash could be in a super hot-like game. Yeah, any superhero in any game could make a fun game. It depends on the designer. You're just listing games now.
What would Lucas Pope make for a superhero game?
Oh, something that's in some way turns a bureaucratic process into a really engaging story.
Okay.
He plays the calculator in the DC universe, who's like the sort of supervillain version of Oracle.
Oh.
Or there was
Yes.
there's like the group that collateral damage or something. There's like a group that has to do cleanup after superheroes.
Just like you just get the Power Watch simulator devs to do that.
Yeah, but there's like what is it like to work in like a bureaucracy where you have to clean up New York after the Battle of New York?
Oh, what if they made you clean it? You have to save the town, but any destruction you cause, you have to fix.
You have to break
yeah.
it, you buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A little wind down in between battles. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, some people might prefer the like wind down, reconstruct things gameplay, so they deliberately destroy everything to do more of it.
And you'll also, and if you don't like it, you'll understand what it's like to be a superhero. Of like, dear God, now I have to hold back my punch, otherwise I'll send this guy flying through, and now I've destroyed the wall.
Oh damn! I have to put a load of bricks into this person-shaped hole in this wall.
Yeah, there you go.
Jay Greenlee gives $10 and says, "Superheroes as bad guys stroke the reverse has gotten old. Writers have overcomplicated the simplistic nature of them. We know it's ridiculous, treat it seriously, and so will we. Also hire better writers.
I'm with that too. As much as
I
like
I wouldn't take it
optimistic.
seriously if it was treated seriously. I didn't take Batman v Superman seriously, and that was like as po-faced as it gets.
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
I don't think treating it seriously is like that's not a good or a bad thing. It's you could treat
It's
it
a-
seriously and do it terribly, or you can treat it
Yes.
goofily and do it terribly. Yeah.
I
I
agree with you that
do-
superheroes are inherently a very simplistic idea, and it's kind of a mistake to sort of mature them up into ultra-violent, gritty adult films.
I'm with him. Yes, I believe the reverse and the bad guys. Now that's going to become the maybe it's just the cycle. We're becoming so cynical that it's time for Superman. Something to be optimistic in all this instance.
I have a related theory that I call the financial dragon theory.
Go on.
That states that the way popular culture depicts dragons is an indicator of the state of the financial economy worldwide.
Okay.
Right.
Because if popular culture tends to see dragons as like wealth hoarding bastards, the economy is doing poorly. But if we treat dragons as sort of friendly, like allies to humanity, it shows the economy is doing well.
What if
Uh,
they're
if-
drawn very seductively?
Like The Hobbit, Smaug, hoarding all the wealth in the world, came out around the time of the Great Depression. The most economically optimistic period in the 20th century was in the post-war 60s Reconstruction era, and that was around when Puff the Magic Dragon came out.
Oh, look at him. What's that say of Dark Souls and its rot-ridden dragons?
Well, we've all been living with a poor economy for quite some time. I think the interesting example is Game of Thrones treating dragons as this more sort of not quite dependable, all-powerful thing.
Yeah.
Sure.
So we understand, like, the financial world has power over us, but they're also not, they're not all-powerful, like, super beings. They're just regular people who've got too much shit.
Mhm.
Sure. And do you think that's a reflection that it can apply to Superman in that way? Of how
It's
you want to
possible.
see him is based on what you're exposed to.
It's possible, yes. I think the way we treat superheroes is based on, like, the status of the world globally. I mean, take this next super chat from Josh Knowles, who gives $5 to say, "I will take the most brutal Watchmen vigilante over any cop." We are living in a possibly unprecedented era of suspicion directed towards the police, at least in America. I mean, back in the day, superheroes were always friends of the cops. The cops were all like, "Help us, Superman." Superman was, "You are the real heroes."
Yeah. Batman's only partner was a cop. And, yeah.
Yes, but now all cops are bastards, as a well-known acronym reveals. So no, we're suspicious of people trying to enforce the status quo
Good.
like that.
Time for a Punisher game. Well,
There have been plenty of those. Well, there's been
Yeah.
a couple of those. There was one that people tend to really like. I
There's one
forget
for-
if it was. I
This
think
one.
it was written by
Props.
Garth Ennis.
There was a THQ one, at least for like the old, came out for the original Xbox era.
Oh, look at that! Right on hand.
Yeah, original
You know
story
what?
by Garth Ennis and Jimmy Palmiotti.
wow.
Sounds very Italian.
Garth Ennis, yeah, the writer of Preacher, who also wrote some Punisher stuff, and who himself tends to have a very cynical attitude towards superheroes in his work.
And yeah, Bubba's Big Blast. In fairness, Max Payne is ostensibly a Punisher game. Agreed.
If you like.
I do like. Thank you.
Boradis gives $5 and says, "I'll tell my 8-year-old cousin who wants to be kind and heroic like his heroes that he's mentally deficient for liking their stories." No, you can tell
No.
him he's 8 years old, which he is.
Let him down gently.
No, there's plenty of like I feel like the positive impact that the modern portrayals of Spider-Man or even like the rising success of Black Panther, I feel like have been a net positive.
Okay, fine. Yeah, it's fine for like 10-year-olds to like that shit. But
What's the cutoff?
generally-
At what age can I no longer like my
Yeah.
Spider-Man?
We're like the puzzle box that says 15 plus.
38. 38. We're still fine, right?
We're
I
good.
can
Well,
get 38.
At 21, because then you
No!
stop caring about superheroes, and then you start drinking.
Start
The drinking becomes your superpower.
I'm Superman. All right.
No more Captain America. It's only Captain Morgan for me.
God.
Hmm. People, you just like whatever you like. Don't let me.
There's no cops. There's no.
Well,
We just said we hate the
Oh, I don't
cops.
know.
So who cares
There's
about
no
the taste
cops.
cops?
Yeah. Do what you want.
Everyone hates cops.
Except when I need one to like unscrew a really tight pickle jar. You know?
I could do that. I got big manly hands.
Yeah, but these are tiny pickle jars. It only holds one little cuke.
Oh,
And you
fair
like
enough.
call the police?
Yes.
It's
the only thing
the
that good
fireman.
for.
Somebody needs to
Yes.
crack this
I'm
jar.
putting your tax money to good use. Yes.
Yeah, they'll come over and shoot your dog if you do that.
Yep.
You
Unfortunately,
got your pickles.
I got my pickle for my sandwich. Yeah.
Jake the Sneaker Geek gives 19.99 US and says a game about alternate universe Batman trappings and evil Superman in a red sun powered prison cell and God knows what else, and you're stuck on super pills. Oh. Well, I think you're talking about Injustice 2 there, and I just sort of have an understanding in my head now that NetherRealm shoot fighters all have really terrible writing.
Oh.
It's about the fighting. Yeah, that's like porn. I'm not here to read.
I think people like the stories of those games, right?
They're passable. Sure.
Well, I like them because they're really dumb. I sort of go, no, it thinks it's a real story.
He thinks it's people.
Yeah.
Oh no! I mean, deception. Here I go again. The trailer starts with you as the old man. You are the cause of the deception, but the whole way here, you're like, "You're stupid. You're stupid. Let's kick more ass." Like,
There you go.
hmm.
Alex Armstrong gives $5 and says, "Oh, all right. One more question. What about cynical protagonists who scoff at being a hero? Although the only one that comes to mind is Jim from Mogworld.
I mean,
Dog,
that makes them like the only
But-
ones suitable. No, if you
I-
the person who doesn't want the
mean,
power most suited.
I mean, Logan from Wolverine would probably scoff at being called a hero. Am I
Yeah.
wrong?
Seems about right.
Ben,
Oh, man, I look young in that video.
look at that. The
Look
thing.
at little baby Yahtzee.
Look
Yeah,
at you.
that must have been well over a decade ago.
Don't
You
use
still
the
have that
hat
suit?
anymore.
I think I do, actually.
There you go. You're gonna be buried in it.
Why'd you have it?
Look at me, I've got so much hair.
Why did you have? Why did you have the suit on you?
I was making like a cynical, silly video about
I mean,
my
why did-
upcoming novel.
Why did you own it to begin with?
I think I bought it to go to a wedding.
Okay, I'm always curious because it's always like wedding or funeral.
Yeah, it
Is
was
this
a
a
wedding.
sad suit or a happy suit?
Yeah,
Oh, no, it wasn't the wedding. It was the Webby Awards. That's what I bought that suit for.
even happier suit. Look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
that's the
a
suit.
gala suit? Ooh, top tier
yeah.
suit.
They tried to fob me off with a bow tie, and I was like, "No, I have some dignity. I will have a silk black tie for my awards ceremony. Thank you very much."
Fancy gala suit. Nice.
Pepperblood gives 11.99 and euros and says, "Just popping in to wish all a good week. And my 2 cents is seeing more vigilante justice would be nice, especially in a country with an under-equipped police and rising drug-related crime. Ireland."
Where's my Robin Hood game?
Well, the trouble is, vigilante justice veers very easily into witch hunts and
That's why,
lynch mobs.
And The Witcher.
That's why we need checks and balances and all of that. Yeah, it'd be fine to have vigilante superheroes as long as you got 2 who don't like each other, and so who are constantly waiting for the other one to fuck up.
Competing vigilante superheroes. I like
But not
that.
Civilization.
Yeah, that'd be checks and balances right there.
Yeah, that's just a new Civ game, but it's superheroes.
There you go. Ooh, Robin Hood Conquest of the Longbow. There's a deep cut in your
Oh,
video
I don't
game
even-
references.
I don't even know what that is.
Obscure Sierra game.
You play
There's a
as
fun,
Robin
like-
Hood's bow.
There was a fun video essay on it recently. I forget by who.
Hmm.
Anyway, where was I? Nirast25 gives 25 rons and says, "I really want you all to do a crossover pod with Overly Sarcastic Productions where you talk for an hour about Superman and video games." I don't know who that is.
I don't know who that
Overly
is.
Sarcastic Productions did great stuff. Love their work.
They should
they
do a
trope
they
talk.
should do a reaction video to this podcast. Think about that.
Yeah.
They do what? Trump talk?
Trope talks.
Trope
Pretty much.
talks.
They've been around the internet almost as long as Yahtzee has been a
Nice.
mainstay.
Oh, blimey. Very few
Yeah.
people have been around as long as I.
Mm.
I'll say that. But, the
They're
internet's
always-
existed since the 70s, hasn't it? In one form or another?
Yeah, that's like fake internet, though,
Yeah,
right?
it's like ARPANET and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
the military internet before it was
Yeah.
public.
Yeah.
but there were still arguments about Return of the Jedi on it, as I understand. I once read some old, dredged up, bulletin board
From the
entries
80s?
from people from like the 70s and 80s. People arguing about The Empire Strikes Back and saying, no,
Incredible.
Darth Vader can't really be Luke's father. He was just trying to psych him out.
Yeah.
And lots of people and all the discourse after Return of the Jedi came out was curiously very parallel with all the discourse after The Phantom Menace came out.
Oh, no.
Saying, oh no, trilogy ruined forever with the cute teddy bears.
Oh,
Meant
the
for children
Ewoks.
is suddenly geared towards children.
Yeah.
Mm.
Jake the Sneaker Geek gives $4.99 US and says, MGS4, my favorite Metal Gear. That microwave tunnel scene.
What a great tunnel scene. That's a top 5 tunnel scene ever.
Isn't that kind of a joke though? Because it's Snake trying to crawl his ruined body down this microwave tunnel for this really long, horrible sequence. And then when he gets to the end, he doesn't do anything. Otacon does all the work.
Yeah,
And his
Otacon
little
does the-
robot.
Yeah, the little robot comes out, and you're like, why didn't the robot do this
Yeah.
all the time? And then you just
Yeah.
appear on the top of it, and then you have your very homoerotic fist fight with your ghost brother, Revolver Ocelot.
Otacon was the true unsung hero of MGS4.
And every time we fell in love with someone, they died. R.I.P.
He got the girl. He got to shag someone in that game.
Then she died. Spoilers.
Yeah.
Mm.
But then that was the routine.
Metal Gear's great.
Hunter Roge gives $10 US and says, not much to add, just want to say the best superhero game is Saints Row 4. I too enjoy Saints Row 4.
Top 10 superhero games not based on superheroes. That's up there.
Man, that's a very disquieting angle on Solid Snake's bottom.
Yeah, he's got a real thick ass in that game.
Oh,
When Casey and I were replaying it the other year, man, that guy is just a trunk full of junk.
yep. Clap from my ass is alerting the guards.
Yeah. Dummy thick.
Yeah.
Hunter Roge gives... Oh, I've done that one. Jay Greenlee gives $2 and says, seriously, as Arkham Asylum City or Night did.
Buy a serious game. Yeah,
Oh.
that's taken less seriously, more of just those games are also just done well.
They aren't really...
You have to be
They aren't...
good.
They're not realistic,
No.
the Arkham games.
No.
They're stylized in a very sort of Tim Burton-y sort of way.
Yeah.
And then you sort
Oh,
of forgive the fact that Batman's a dude running around in his pants.
No, that's
fighting.
Joel Schumacher's what that is. That
If you
city?
like.
Oh man, crazy everywhere.
But angled doorways. That's very Tim Burton.
Fair. I meant more so the composition of all right, this right here is the penguin lair, right next to Harvey's thing, right next to it's just all.
And when you're under
Something
Scarecrow
together.
gas in Arkham Asylum, the camera goes into a Dutch angle. That's how you know.
Oh. Tim Burton invented the Dutch. I got you.
Where are we? Diane Spencer gives £10 and says, happy to catch one of these live.
Thanks,
Or at least
Diane.
the last 5 minutes of it. Jake the Sneaker Geek gives $9.99 US and says, I think it's not an age cutoff, it's an era. You're born in the 90s and beyond. We love our superheroes. So, young enough that you don't remember 9/11. Is that what you're saying?
I remember it. I don't know. Just who you relate to. If you relate to him, sure.
Did you skip 2? Or am I insane?
Yeah,
Did
you
you skip
skipped
Extended
one.
Club and Jay Greenlee's second message?
Oh, yeah. So I did. It was that seriously in quotes that threw me off.
Oh, gotcha.
Extended Club Mix gives $5 and says, I think superhero fans forget there is an entire wing of media that exists to reaffirm and propagandize the importance of the genre back at them. But everyone hates them now.
Hey, too.
Yeah, I think superhero fans these days are more complaining about the audience reactions than the other films.
I think all fans hate themselves.
Oh,
Every fan of
yeah.
everything just hate themselves.
Well,
Yeah.
anyone who identifies as a fan of something, then yeah, sure.
I'm a
Be a fan of yourself before anything else.
Gotta believe.
So much
Naruto.
narcissism right here.
Shippuden.
Jay Greenlee comes back with $2 and says, seriously, as in no meta jokes stay in universe.
Sure.
Deadpool's coming. He's
If you
gonna meta joke up the wazoo.
Oh my goodness.
He's gonna delete your save file. That's how meta he gets.
And Jason Hendricks gives $5 and says, unrelated, but thanks, Frost, for giving me the words to describe my centrist beliefs as a fellow man of extremes.
Yeah, there you go. I don't like being seen as cut and dry right through the middle where it goes, oh, he never takes a strong stance. It's more just, I have this extreme stance and this extreme stance. So on average, I'm just in the middle.
Yeah, well, we have the luxury of being able to be centrist these days. Can't really be a centrist in the age of the Nazis. I only say, okay, let's just kill half the world's Jews.
No, that's not centrism. That's just bad math.
What I'm saying is, like, if you try to reach a middle ground between normal person and Nazi, you're being a Nazi.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't. No, I go the other ways. Like, to me, right now, like this conversation here, yes, I think Superman is great and wholesome and optimistic and positive and lovely. But I also think it would suck to play as Superman in a video game. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
I can believe in both, I believe. And piss off both camps.
I'm just going to hold this shark toy here. I hope nothing disquieting happens to it.
Oh,
You trying to make a dog do a thing?
Spit up the song.
Jaws and times 4 speed.
Did Jaws ever eat a dog in the films?
I'm sure a dog got eaten. Yeah, a dog.
I ask because Toffee seems to have an axe to grind.
Uh-oh. Comes from a lineage of great-great-great-great-grandfather eaten by Jaws.
Nirast25 gives 10 bronze and says, Mr. Miracle game in the style of POP, 1989. Who's Mr. Miracle?
I don't know. Never even heard of it. I don't know if it's DC. Is that Marvel? Mr. Miracle.
Oh.
Dude, he's got a DC, Jack Kirby.
See, I know Miracle Man was like a British superhero that Alan Moore wrote on at one point.
No, Jack Kirby, the creator. Jack Kirby.
Oh.
The gangster.
The guy that shot Lee Harvey Oswald? No?
Jack Ruby.
Jack Ruby.
Oh, so close. The guy who made Kirby?
Look at it's just feisty.
Wow, he does not like that.
Toffee's like, you're not taking me on my walk. This is what's going to happen.
He's beyond his walk. I had some time to kill before the podcast.
Toffee.
He's got all this energy. He's ready.
For shit.
Tsunami Douche gives $20 and says, wonder if this is an odd take. I always disliked superheroes, but always loved one supervillain, Doctor Doom. He wants to rule the world, not simply because he can, but because he thinks he's best fit to. Game potential? I think that says more about you, Tsunami Douche. I mean, I've been like sitting on an idea for a Scarecrow biopic for many years because I really like Scarecrow as a character. And that's probably because of my own problems with anxiety disorders. And the idea of
what's his lore?
What's that?
For context,
Scarecrow.
what is Scarecrow's lore? Yeah.
Well, it depends on the thing, but I sort of made up my own origin story for him.
Ah, I see what you mean. All right. Social anxiety caused him the boogity.
Yes.
Boogity.
I have what if it's like a dude who tried to kill himself by inhaling too much fear gas and it just completely warped his mind.
But also that Doctor Doom about wanting to rule the world not because you can, but because you think you'd be the best fit. Isn't that like aren't all kind of like God games / like Civilization? Is that ostensibly like you are playing a Doctor Doom-esque character? Making those big decisions?
Yeah.
Those resoundingly big decisions.
Just play
grand
evil
strategy,
genius, I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah, that's a good choice of Scarecrow, Eric. The Injustice 2 Scarecrow is one of my favorite Scarecrows. Because you don't fight him, you fight a hallucination of him.
Oh, that's cool.
Because in his initial walking out animation, he's just like a dude in a lab coat with a bag on his head, and he releases like a canister. And then
there it is.
It's happening right now.
Yeah, there he is.
So that's cool.
That's
and the monster emerges. Okay, I once posted a tweet like, okay, I get that when other characters fight him, they're hallucinating the monster, but what happens in Scarecrow versus Scarecrow mirror matches?
Sure.
Is that just like a
they both just huff out and go crazy?
It's just like one for the doctor.
Is it just a representation of like Jonathan Crane's inner struggles?
Yeah, there you go.
This game's got too deep.
Well, is that the last super chat? Actually, probably not.
I
need to refresh the page. Yes. Humane Shield gives $4.99 and says John Crichton was one of the first sci-fi heroes that tried to be a hero but mess everything up and barely make it out alive. Was that Farscape? Am I right in thinking that was Farscape that John Crichton was the protagonist of?
Looks like it. I've never watched Farscape, but yes, John Crichton Jr. is a Farscape. I don't know anything about Farscape.
That name threw me off because, as you know, I'm a big fan of Red Dwarf. And in Red Dwarf, there's a robot character named Kryten, spelled Kryten, which I now know was a pun on the Admirable Kryten, which was a story about a butler. But that was the first time I'd ever heard the name. So anytime I hear Kryten, I think that is a robot.
I thought it was a type of John Carter who went to Mars.
Yeah, that's a different John.
That's a different John entirely.
Paul gives $2 and says, Marty, give me your best Yahtzee impression.
Faulty Towers, Nibbits, gin.
Nibbits?
Nibbits. Isn't that like a little snack? You guys like Nibbits? You always talk about weird
Nibbits.
chips I don't know about. Nibbits?
We have knickknacks. That's a British snack.
Knickknacks. Tim Tams?
That's
Those
Australian.
are Canadians. Oh.
They're all not here. I'm bad at doing impressions. I don't know. It's just all this stuff. We talk about games, and then he says some things I don't understand every once in a while.
Yeah, and it always makes me feel superior.
There you go. There you go.
Guild on Yetich gives $2 and says, we all want empowerment, yet hate those with power. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean,
I don't
you either
know.
die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain and all that.
I think I could just keep it secret. Just never be bothered.
There you
Like,
go.
oh, who could save us? Yeah, who?
The Brain Sturgeon gives €2 and says, has Frost considered taking a Cameo account?
Taking a Cameo account. What's that?
Well,
Cameo
Cameo
that
is the-
service.
Yeah, it's a service where you can get celebrities to record personalized messages for you. And it's easy work for them. They just get their phone out and say a sentence, and then they get.
Right.
You could burn
$50.
through like 1 million of them in an hour.
Dear
Yeah,
God.
I've thought of setting one up actually because I flatter myself in that I have a fairly iconic and well-known voice for the internet age.
Sounds dodgy with all this machine learning about. I don't want. Hey,
Oh,
Frost, could
Christ.
you tell? I would like to make a withdrawal from the bank, please, for $5,000.
Well, you can choose which ones you do. You're not
Okay.
obliged to do every single one.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
You just get paid for whichever ones you feel like doing. And it's usually sit like, "Happy birthday, Lisa. You sound like a charismatic stallion."
See, I feel like enough of those you could splice some weird, like calling a stallion charismatic.
Well, they
Now,
could
I
do that
love
with all the
horses
stuff
like that.
we already put online.
No, because we talk over each other. So it's not a clean cut.
Well, they could use our video essays.
Yeah.
Oh no.
That's why I slur in mine. they never go along.
Hmm.
It's like one last one.
Refresh again.
By Jay Greenlee.
Ah, yes. Jay Greenlee gives $5. Says, guess I mean treat the source material with respect, like the Halo show isn't doing. I'm all for different interpretations, but not wearing an IP's skin. Well, you just want the fucking moon on a stick, don't you, Jay Greenlee?
You just want to not wear the flesh of the things you love. I think Nick said this season of Halo is better. I'm just not watching it because I didn't think the first. I just don't care about Halo. I think Halo's kind of boring to begin with.
You know, I love Nick and he's a great boss, but I sort of discount everything he says is good. Because he keeps recommending shit and it's never really worked out for me.
I don't trust. I think everyone here has terrible taste. If I'm being honest.
Honestly, absolutely.
Myself included. Definitely myself included.
I tough dog.
I can tell you what people will like, but if you ask me, I was like absolute garbage. Don't look at these. More for me. There's Toffee. You can't trust a modern Halo fan.
All right. All right. Well, thanks for listening to the Windbreaker podcast. I look forward to reading all the butthurt comments on this video as well. Talk about how really Superman was really well written in this one story from whenever. I've been Yahtzee Crucial. I was joined by Marty Sleever and Sebastian Ruiz.
It's been a me.
And Toffee, who's digging his paws into my shoulder urgently.
Eric,
For
you're doing
some
some
reason.
great camera work on Toffee.
I should probably go and make sure little Timmy hasn't fallen down the well. But before that, don't forget Fully Ramblematic this Wednesday will be on the subject of Banishers, Ghosts of New Eden, a new game by the dudes who made Vampire way back in the day. And I thought was apparently worth talking about. I've also got Yahtzee tries on Wednesday afternoon, which I'll be playing a couple of recent indie games that we've gotten codes for that I don't know much about, and you get to see my reactions in real time. That's the gist. And oh yes, don't forget the Adventurer's Knife finale, which will hopefully be ready by Saturday.
It'll absolutely be ready by Saturday.
Yes, and I want to tune into
It's a
that.
beefster. It's a beefster.
All right, Frost, your turn. Plug stuff.
What have we got? New Cold Take just come out talking about surviving the next fest. This is to start you guys off. It's a little bit of like, what is it about some certain demos that sticks out to them? I get it. This is probably more geared for critics and devs than the actual like layman. But the future next fest, now that this one's been laid out, will be more of like these are the ones that stood out. If you care for the process, it's somewhere else.
There you go.
What I got.
All right, Marty.
Excellent. Yeah, we should have our normal streaming schedule this week. Later tonight, Hidden Gems will be back at 6 p.m. Normal streams throughout the rest of the week. But then next week, you guys will be off to DC, correct? So I think we're still going to hold down the fort. Frost, you and I will be here. So
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
there will be a fully Ramblematic next week.
Mhm.
As for whether there will be one the week after, that remains to be seen. But I'll be
Yeah.
doing my best to keep up with content production while I'm away doing all our important other content production.
Yeah. So we'll be back with the show next week. Sans Yahtzee. Maybe we'll see if Jamate's free. Otherwise, you know what? Frost and I'll just do a fucking 2-man show.
We could talk
it's
about
a
happy
little
things.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about. Hey guys, by the way, Superman's actually great. That's what next week.
We're going to retract all our statements.
We're gonna retract every previous episode. Very good. Excellent.
One last super chat from Paul gives $2 to say, "Hold on, aren't you your own bosses now?" Yes,
Everyone's got a
technically.
boss.
Nick's
I mean,
still
we-
got the editor-in-chief title.
Nick is our boss, but also by virtue of the company, we are all Nick's boss. So it's
We are all boss, but some are more boss than others.
exactly double boss.
Right. Well, that'll be it then. Bye, everyone.
Hi everyone.
Oh.
Thanks, Eric, for being great. You're all wonderful.
Bye, cynicism.